Hello, everyone. We're back for another episode of In Between the Speaks, where we're talking about relationships, and we try to give you some practical tips on making sure that you don't end up in divorce court. So, today we're talking about how to fight fair, right? Handling disagreements in a way that strengthens the relationship as opposed to harming your relationship. So, the first thing I have to tell you that, as a therapist, one of the things I tell my clients is that conflict is natural in any relationship. So it's really not abnormal for people to have conflict. You're two different people, so you're going to have two different perspectives. So, of course, sometimes you're not going to disagree. But it's not about how much conflict or lack of conflict you have that dictates whether you have a good or bad relationship. It's how you handle that conflict. Do you wind up sleeping on the couch? Is somebody leaving to go take a drive, um, or they punching a hole through the wall because they're frustrated at the fact that they feel like the conversation is going nowhere. So it's really about how you navigate that disagreement in a way that helps improves the bond between the two of you and grow your relationship stronger. So we figured the best way to show this is to talk about a recent disagreement we had. And amazingly, it was off of one of our past episodes. I know we haven't had that many. I don't really know how many we had, but it was in episode one or two. So we arguing like right off the top. So um,
That's why our friends love us so much. We're entertainment at times.
yeah, I don't know how entertaining it is. It's really stressing, stressful. But it was a disagreement about something that's relatively small. Right? She wanted a kiss at the end of our last podcast episode, and I didn't really think that it was necessary for us to be kissing at the end of every episode. Now I say every episode because I thought that we did it at another episode that we taped, only to realize that that episode was never put on online. So we did an hour or whatever of taping that went nowhere. But I mean that's probably a different topic for
I would agree.
a different episode, you know. Um, but we're going to try to break that down, talk about how we handled it, and share some lessons on healthy conflict and resolution.
So, like Art said on the last episode, I did ask for a kiss, and it was because we were getting into one of our little conflict moments at the time. And you know what? You see for yourself of what happened. I guess that will bring us to another topic on our next session about relationships. What do you think?
Yeah, well, full transparency. I didn't want to talk about this. I thought it was irrelevant, but she wanted to talk about how we met. So
And I thank you for that. I thank you. Got a kiss?
I'm not kissing you on camera.
No. What?
I'm not kissing you on camera
Do you hear this? He's not kissing me on camera. Why?
because I'm not. I'm not doing that.
Oh wow.
You know, it's making out on camera.
No, I just want a kiss. That's it.
That's all right. I'll give you a kiss after this is over.
Now, ladies, come on now. Really? He's my husband. He won't give me a kiss on camera. What's up with that?
Um, we not like kissing and hugging and stuff. It's not that type of show.
He's upset.
I'm not upset.
Yes, he is. Well, let me kiss.
Did I just tell you I'm not kissing you on camera?
Mm,
See, again,
give me a kiss.
it actually this would be a great topic for you know.
I've never. What? You're not gonna give me a kiss because we're on camera?
Yeah, I told you that I'm not gonna do it, but now you're gonna try to forcibly make me do it on camera, or try to make it seem like it's abnormal for me not to be wanting to be kissing and hugging on you while we're videotaping.
All
It's
right.
like a loaded question. Like, you know, maybe gaslighting will be one of our topics.
Okay, peace. Peace. Because we're about to get into it.
I ain't getting into nothing. It's late.
We
It, it,
about to get into it,
it took
y'all.
her an hour to get these mics together. I was watching TV, so I mean, okay.
All right, we cutting. We cutting. Good night, everybody. Okay, so as you can see, I initially thought Art was upset, which is why he didn't want to give me a kiss. And I'm thinking, like, why in the world would you be upset because I'm asking you um, for a kiss, on camera? And I took a little offense to that, because one, how would that look to other people who really don't know us? That I'm asking my husband for a kiss and he says no. And I didn't have to load that video up, but I thought it was very important that you saw our authentic selves and how we handle conflict and how our love enable us to be able to do so in a healthy way.
Yeah, I don't want to giggle about it, but she says in a healthy way. It was nothing healthy about her being upset from the onset because, in my opinion, what I was kind of frustrated about, you know, it wasn't so much the fact of a public display of affection, because she wants to kiss me in front of people like all the time. I mean, that's not really what the issue
Well,
is. The issue was, we're trying to have a professional podcast and stick to the topics, give some information to help people, and she wanted to kiss at the end. I don't know why. I mean, maybe because that episode probably was one of those ones where I didn't really feel like taping at the time. It was late. I was tired, so maybe she was just trying to do that to show the thank you for doing that. I know you're tired. Who knows? I don't know. But I just didn't feel that kissing is necessary at the end of every episode, nor do I appreciate feeling pressured to do something that I don't really feel like I need to, I wanted to do.
so you felt pressured.
Well, it was pressure. You pressure me into doing things that I don't want to do. You don't see it as pressure because it's not coming from your perspective, right? But it's a deeper conversation about control, decision making, and compromise, which sometimes you don't tend to see. You don't tend to see the fact that we need to compromise. And I don't know where I read it, but somebody said true compromise is neither one of you getting everything that you want at the end of it. So you're not necessarily happy with the resolution, but you're getting something, but not everything. Like I don't feel like it's necessary for me to always have to capitulate in order to save an argument. So these small disagreements always reflect bigger relationship issues and dynamics, which is what I've been seeing. You know what I mean? So my frustration had nothing to do with kissing her. It had everything to do with her kind of always forcing me to do stuff. We're not talking about stuff ahead of time, or when she's not getting my you know how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that ahead of time? It's like or just do this. And if I don't do it, then I get um, the the silent kind of treatment. Not she'll have a one of those little attitudes. I'm pretty sure you dudes know what I'm talking about, where she's mad, but she's not trying not to act like she's mad, but she's not talking. She'll go upstairs and lay down. You know, that
I
is
be
that.
tired sometimes. What are you talking about? You
Well,
you're painting me out to be a bad person.
I'm not painting you out to be nothing. I'm just didn't you say we want to be authentic? I'm being authentic. I'm telling
But
these people what it's like. to be on this side of the table,
So let's back up.
feeling my pain a little bit
Let's
out
back
there.
up. This is actually what happens really in our household. So capitulate. What was the word you used? Can you break that down? Because some people don't understand that. Because capitulate. What was that?
That's it's not like a real difficult terminology. I
Do you
mean,
know what
like,
it means?
yeah, well, I do.
he uses these big words. So
Capitulating a big word. Well, all
okay.
right, regardless, it's either I do what she says,
Ah,
capitulate to it, or I don't do it and risk an argument. Either I capitulate or not. You know what I mean? I didn't think that was really too different. You could use the context clues to understand what that word,
well,
that word.
normally I can put two and two together and get the meaning. But the
Well,
way it was referenced in that conversation,
yeah, well,
I
that's
had to
probably
get that
because,
one.
like, I mean, I don't want to call her out, but like we try to sometimes. Well, I like to put structure to these podcasts, and one of the segments on there says compromise versus capitulation. So if you didn't understand what the word capitulated mean, then when you read it the first time that she said she did, but I know she didn't read it because she's asking me what the word and it's big on the paper. It's big on the paper. It says capitulating. It says compromise versus capitulation. Right? More proof that she didn't read it. Okay, but I don't want to go off topic. So go ahead. Say
So
whatever.
let me clear that up. Because first of all, he sends me things in the middle of a workday, and I am so busy, I don't have time to read. And I try to read. I'm supposed to get a few breaks at work. I rarely get them, and so when I looked at it, I did read over it, and I probably did have a question, but my days are so busy that I didn't even get a chance to look it up because normally I would just Google a word. If I don't know the meaning, I will Google it. People out there who are like me, raise your hand. Please don't leave me alone. So I did not know what that meant. I must have forgotten about it, and I never looked it up. So now we're here, and I asked you for a meaning of it. So I thank you for explaining it to me, and I'm pretty sure those of you who are out there like me, we all thank you, honey.
Yeah. Well, I get that, but maybe that's another episode for down down on the line. Because even before we started this, I asked her. I said, "Well, did you at least read this? Read the thing?" I said, "Yeah, I read it. I read it. I read it. I ain't memorize it. I read it. I read it." I'm like,
You putting
okay,
it all out there, huh?
yeah. Well, you
Okay.
wanted to be authentic, so we're being authentic.
Okay.
We're being authentic. I read it. I read it. Okay, if you read it, then you would have seen the word capitulation because it's one of the topics
Back to
on
the
one.
kiss, Scott. Back to the kiss. Back to the kiss.
Okay, back to the. Mm-mm-mm. One day at a time, sweet Jesus. Okay, back to the kiss. Basically, we kind of talked. I told you what my perspective on that was. I just didn't think it was necessary for us to do it because I didn't think it was something professional. And then I don't like for you to be trying to tell me what I need to do during these things all the time without kind of briefing me ahead of time. You know, I don't think that's something that's so out of the box. It's really simple to me. Like we're doing this together, so we should talk about what we're doing. Like when I say I write down a kind of a bare bones script of what we're going to talk about and how we're going to flow. I don't just say to you last minute, here's what we're doing. I give it to you way ahead of time for you to be able to read over it, think about what was being said, comment on whatever you need to comment on, and then we work on it together. That's my thing, working on it together. You tend to dictate what you want to have happen. And if I don't capitulate, remember what that word is?
Oh wow.
If I don't capitulate to what you want to have happen, then you get an attitude. And how's that healthy? You know what I mean? Like, how's that healthy? Like, it's like I can't have a say in stuff without it becoming a problem.
So I'm not healthy. Is that what you're saying?
Now, this is going
I'm
to be
I'm
another
trying to
episode too.
understand.
Nobody said Marie's not healthy.
You would think I'm not the way you're describing me.
No, that's your perspective on it because that's what you hear. You know,
Okay.
you hear that I said that you're not healthy. What I said was if if I'm not given the ability to give input into the situation without you getting upset at what I'm saying, how is that healthy? How's that situation
Okay.
healthy?
I hear you now.
Yeah, you hear me now. But see now, if we weren't on camera doing this, she probably would have ran to town with that one thing that she held on to, and then it would have been a day of me having an hour to try to explain that what you're the way you're perceiving it is not really what I'm saying. You know, there's a study that I read out there that said that individuals, people, not just women and men, that we listen about um, 1/4 of the time that we're speaking, and we speak slower than actually what we're thinking. Right? So we're talking even before we even understand what the input is coming in. We're already formulating a response even before we have an opportunity to process the information that's coming into our head. So she heard and hung on to a specific thing, healthy, and she put healthy to her, which wasn't the correlation. The correlation was healthy to the the relationship in terms of having a healthy disagreement about something. You know what I mean? That's where this stuff starts spiraling like out of control. So in order to kind of avoid that stuff, which is difficult when you got a person who maybe doesn't really understand what you're trying to do, or is maybe is unwilling to listen to your perspective. I'm not saying that you are, but I'm just saying like it makes it sometimes difficult to kind of get that thing across if you don't want to really listen to what the other person is saying. You nodding and stuff like, are you in disagreement with what I'm saying?
No, I would definitely interrupt you like I normally do, but um, in all honesty, like, well, first of all, I feel like he's throwing me under the bus. But at the end of the day, Art and I have been together for 17 years, I believe it is now. I think it's 17 years. Like I said, math be math, and I'm not. So we've been together that long. So we have had unhealthy disagreements in the past, like especially in the beginning of our relationship. And what I've realized, and I think, I thank Art for his patience with me, and I'm pretty sure you thank me for my patience with you, hon, right? Whatever. So it's not all about Marie is not getting what she wants, so she throws a tantrum because, yes, that's what I hear. However, because of the conversations that we've had and the things that we've gone through, I'm able now to take a step back and not necessarily put myself in the conversation of, oh, he must mean that this is me that he's talking about when he's trying to uh, get me to understand his perspective on a certain situation. And also with my coaching background and my mentoring background and being married to a therapist, I'm learning every day. It's a learning opportunity, and I'm learning to listen more and talk less. And so now I do appreciate the conversations that we have. And although it seems like he's jabbing at me sometimes, I do take a step back and I try to hear him, because as you know, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And that means we have different languages at times. But and like later on, we'll talk about love languages too. But we do understand each other for the most part. He knows me, I know him. But sometimes there is that um, I guess your self talk that you talk to yourself about certain things that have happened to you in your past that you bring into that situation. Well, it could be past hurts, it could be past relationships, past trauma, it could be your upbringing, whatever it is. Like you could bring that into the present situation. And although he's not necessarily talking about me in certain um, examples that he gives, I'll put myself in that, like what you just saw, where we were talking, when he was talking about the unhealthy. So I put that into, oh, he must be talking about me, but then taking a step back and actually listen to what the response was when I asked him that, it made me understand that no, he didn't call me unhealthy. But to be honest, ladies, the way he was talking about me, yeah, I felt like, wait a minute, you taking jabs at me, so it sounds like I'm unhealthy.
No, I'm not taking jabs at you, but I mean, like, I think maybe I didn't really explain it well. I mean, like, we speak slower than we listen, and then we listen slower than we think. I think that's the question. I said one fourth or something before, but we speak before we actually listen, and we're thinking, you know, quicker than we're already formulating what our response is even before the person stopped talking. That's basically what it is. You know, maybe next session I'll get the actual thing so that people understand exactly what I'm talking about. But the essence of it is we start speaking before we even comprehend what the other person is saying, and that's what she does a lot. And that was a great example of it where she with the healthy thing. But I mean, it's not just her. We people do it all the time unless you're trained.
Do you do it, babe?
Um, well, no, I'm trained to listen. So prior to my training for therapy, I probably was doing it all the time. I probably was doing it all the time. But now I understand that before I respond to something, I can't have a client and just start talking about something that they say until I listen and really comprehend and understand in totality what they're, the stuff that they're talking about. You know what I mean? But before the training, I probably did it all the time. You know what I mean? It's like it's a human kind of thing to do. I'm not knocking um, you for it, but it's something that um, stops healthy disagreements, right? You know, we're supposed to talk about like the strategies for resolving conflict. I mean, like the the one thing that I think is really necessary. A lot of couples don't set up like really ground rules for disagreements. You know what I mean? Like you can't be talking about eight different things. If we're talking about the fact that you're mad because I didn't take out the trash, then you can't be bringing up the fact that I ain't changed a tire in 2006. You know, it can't be like a bunch of different um, arguments. You know, we got to stick to the same. We got to stick to the topic. You know,
So you're speaking about setting boundaries.
yeah, you got to
And
set that. I thought that's what I said. You got to set boundaries for the conversation. You know what I mean? Because you know your natural proclivity in a conflict is to present um, examples or data to support your argument. That's that's.
so you all see me smiling, so you're gonna have to back it up and break down proclivity.
I'm gonna have to get you like a thesaurus or something. All right. So look, your natural tendency,
Okay, thank you. Why didn't you just say that?
your natural tendency in a disagreement is to present arguments to support whatever your side is, right? But that's not the mentality you should go in doing that with. We call that zero sum game. You want to look that up, zero sum game. Now, if you now see that's something that you say, well, I don't understand, honey, what zero sum game. Then I would understand that because most people don't. But actually, everybody does. Sports operates in a zero sum game. I'm the Eagles, you're the Cowboys.
Go
I,
Eagles.
I want to score more points than you do because I want to win. Relationships can't operate that way. So I can't be in my mind thinking of a response to what you're saying just to get a one up on you and prove to you that I'm right. Where's that going to get you? And if both of you are doing that, you're not getting to the root of the problem because you're dismissing each other's concerns because now you're being defensive. So I'm giving you examples as to why you're wrong in doing this. And it may be an example that happened yesterday, or it could be an example that happened in 2004. Who knows? But the point is that you can't operate where you're trying to win an argument. If you rewind to what I said, conflict ain't about winning an argument. You don't win um, when you're trying to come to a compromise. You may not get everything that you want, but that's fine because in a true compromise, you don't get everything that you want. You know, so you want to try to not dismiss each other's concerns or be defensive in it while you're talking. To me, that's number one. And
Yeah, I agree. Like I know that in the beginning, especially in the beginning of our marriage, uh, we both did that, and and I can admit that I did that more so than you did,
I admit that
because
too.
because I'm trying to be serious.
I am serious. I'm serious. She did that more than I did, but okay.
Whatever. So so to give you an example of how something may, how one of our disagreements would go, he'll say something like, "You didn't help me take out the trash," and I would say, "Well, remember that time when we were going through the car wash and, I had to pay for it? Well, you didn't help me pay for the car wash for washing my car," or, just to give you an example of something I would bring up to, like, as he used to call it, you try to one up me. If I say you didn't do this, then I'll add on, well, you didn't do this. And then you didn't do this on top of that. So, what I've learned is that is not good. So if you're doing that, you ladies or gentlemen, just stop, take a step back because you're doing more harm than good in those kind of situations.
Yeah, I mean, and then the second thing, if I'm giving you like some kind of tips for this, is really you gotta really think about what's the root cause of why you're upset in the first place. Now, this may be some reflection on your part. Now, if you look back at the conversation that we had, you know, was this really about the kiss, or did it reflect some kind of deeper frustration that I felt, right? And which it actually did. It's about feeling like I'm being controlled, you know, and lack of creative control in this process, and then feeling like, my um, reservation or hesitation on doing it is just being dismissed. Like I'm supposed to do it just because, I've always done it in the past, and she wants it, so I'm supposed to capitulate and just do it, you know. Um, so maybe if you think about it and identify what the actual root cause of the problem is, you'll come to a better, healthy solution. This is something else that I normally tell my clients, and this is something that I read. I wish it was like a theory that I brought up that I created on my own, but it's not. It's like arguments really are 10% of what's happening right now, and it's 90% of what you're bringing into it from the past. So am I really arguing with you about you not taking out the trash, or is it frustration from the fact that maybe I feel that you don't follow through in the things that you are supposed to do, and I always have to wind up doing stuff because you don't want to do it? So if we again reflect and take a look at what the root causes are in these arguments and these disagreements, you can probably kind of alleviate a whole lot of frustration on both parts. Because frustration is really what? Unmet expectations. If I don't have an expectation for you to do something specific, then I'm not frustrated about it, right? I'm not mad at the fact that you're not, you know, um, I'm not mad at the fact that you're not pressing 300 pounds in the gym. Why? Because I don't have no expectation for you to be pushing up that kind of weight, you know? But I may be frustrated at the fact that I come home after working 11 hours and I got to make dinner. or I got to figure out something to eat while you're sitting here watching Sisters on on Hulu,
It's called Sisters. It's not sisters. It's sisters.
whatever.
And this
But
is rare because I let's back that up. Uh, so first of
think before
all,
you speak. I'm just giving an example. I don't. It's not really even about that. You know what I mean? You don't got
but you
you don't
said a
got to
lot.
explain to the people that you like watching um, that show with Fatima and Sabrina
He
and
knows all the names,
Ronnie,
guys,
Bobby,
because he
Ricky, and
watches
Mike.
it too.
If
He'll be
I'm
sitting
not your
over
girl, who
there.
cares who you like?
He'll be like this, and then when I turn around to look at him, he jumps back to pretend like he's working, and he's so into that. He knows he was just watching it with me. And just to let you know, I do not watch a lot of television. However, recently I have started watching this season because people kept talking about it and kept
Let's
talking
get
about
back
it.
to the kiss, honey. Let's get back to
So
the kiss.
so I'm not a
Nobody wants to know
I
about
am
your
not a big
TV
TV
watching.
watcher.
Nobody wants to know about
So
your TV watching.
let's so when you
We're losing subscribers as you as you're talking. We're losing
so
subscribers.
so can I talk?
Let's get back
You're
to this.
listening to respond and not to hear
Yeah, I'm
and
trying. I'm
understand.
trying to save our podcast. Nobody wants to hear about your proclivities
A
of
Tyler Perry,
of
you did
black
a
and
good thing with sisters.
of
That's
black and
that's a good
sisters.
show. But what you were talking about, what I did want to bring up is, although you have the boundary set and you're listening to understand and not necessarily listen to respond, and you spoke about Art is an alpha male. If you have not figured that out, he is an alpha male. Um, he does not like to be told what to do. However, in any relationship that you're trying to maintain and sustain, there is compromise. So let's talk about compromising when you're talking about I'm asking you to do this and do that and you're not going to do it. There is something called compromise.
Yeah, but compromise is making adjustments to be in the middle.
Hmm.
That's what compromise is. What you sometimes present to me is capitulation, which was on the
He's
thing
going to
that
make
you.
sure that I know that word,
Yeah, because it was
capitulation.
on the script,
Okay.
and I realized that I even gave the definition of what capitulation is on the script. She still didn't. More proof that she didn't read it. But healthy compromise is you're making an adjustment to meet in the middle. I just said it like 7 times that true compromise is you're not getting everything that you want, right?
Hmm.
But that's the essence of compromise. So I understand that you're not going to get everything that you want, but it can't be that if I don't do, I'm doing whatever you say that you want to have happen to avoid the silent treatment, you know, to avoid you walking around in a funk. You know what I mean?
You're saying you don't do that to me too?
Walk around in a funk.
Yeah.
Do I walk around? Sometimes I'm frustrated. Yeah, I mean maybe
He
I walk
walks
around.
around in a funk, and sometimes he chooses not to speak at times.
Yeah, well maybe I'm not saying that I don't.
But
But
you're
I'm not.
you're you're
I'm
making it
not.
seem like it's all me.
Yeah,
It's
but
it's not all me.
you're doing it like funk. I call you Funk Master Flex because you be doing it all the time.
Funk mastery. Get it right. Get it right. Get it
Whatever.
right.
But it's like she'll. But what makes it even worse is that she'll try to act like she's fine, but you can tell she's not fine. You know what I mean? Like I don't see that she has an issue like about something. You know what I mean? Which is hilarious to me. But I am completely in agreement with healthy compromise. Everything should be really a compromise. It has to be with two different people. So I don't expect, even though I'm right 99.9% of the time, I don't expect for her to completely acquiesce to everything that I say or do.
So I know what acquiesce means, but anyway, I want to give you an example that we talked about it, and I'm like I said, I'm a work in progress. I'm still learning, and I'm always going to be, sit myself down and take the posture of a student, as Pastor D always says, right?
These
So
people don't know what you mean by Pastor D.
I'm sorry. We attend Change Church. Yoo-hoo, Change Church. Look it up online, lifechange.org. So Pastor D is Pastor Daniels, Pastor Darius Daniels and Lady Shamika Daniels. They are the pastors of our church. And one of the phrases that he always uses, especially when he's teaching us, is always keep the posture of a student, meaning always be willing to learn. And you can learn. What I've learned from life is you can learn from anybody. And my spiritual father, Pastor Wilbert Richardson Sr., out of Refuge Evangelical Baptist Church in Philadelphia, he taught me even a broken clock is right twice a day. So I always keep that in the forefront of my mind when I am dealing with people, like, especially if you don't necessarily disagree with them, sometimes they are right. So be willing to hear, be willing to listen. And I totally forgot what I was going to say. Um, oh, I was going to give you an example about listening to respond and not necessarily listening to understand. So as Art was talking, being real, I had a moment where he was talking about compromising. There were times when we were used to go to the movies all the time, and we would only go to the movies to see what Art wanted to see. As soon as I said, "Well, let's see this," like I told you before in the last episode, I was very impressed with him because he let me pick out our first movie that we were watching, which was Daddy's Girls. And like after like years later, like in marriage, it's like, oh, I want to go see what Terminator movies or Harry Potter movies or some movies that he wants to see, right? Okay, I'll say, all right, let's go watch something else, like something I can't even think. Let's see. It was just say Big Mama's House or something like that. I want to go watch that. No, I don't want to see that. Why can't we see what I want to see? I'm like, because we keep seeing what you want to see. So we ended up for a long time, and I don't remember the last time we went to the movies recently, but we ended up for a long time not going to the movies because there was no compromise in which movies we were going to watch. So just giving you an example, still in working, I'm a work in progress. That while he was speaking, that was an example of what he was saying about bringing things up from the past and using it as somewhat ammunition to try to win an argument. And although I wasn't trying to win an argument, that popped up in my head, and I thought it was relevant enough to give you a real life example of what he was talking about.
Sounds like trying to win an argument to me. I don't even remember what you're talking about because um, if she wants to go see, I don't know, some kind of movie about uh, some black woman who hear I'm woman hear me roar. Okay, well, if you want to go see it. I don't force her to go to movies with me. I would normally go to the movies with the kids because we always we kind of have the same tastes in movies. So we'll go see Marvel movie. I remember all of us used to go see Marvel movies. We'll go see this. We'll go see that. That's the kind of stuff we like. She likes a whole kind of different genre. So I don't force her to go see those type of movies with me. She'll go see whatever kind of movie she wants. I'll go see whatever kind of movie I want. It's not that big of a deal for me. I don't like this sister stuff. But she's trying to make it seem like I do. You know, but
He
I
was
let
down
her.
here watching it while I was upstairs
No, well,
today.
I didn't even know she was going. I'm down here on the computer looking at the March Madness scores, and she comes down here. You watching this without me? I'm like, watching what? What are you talking about? So she rewinds it. I don't even know how long the thing been on. I'm looking at my bracket,
I bet
March
you if I could
Madness.
come down here and ask him what did Sabrina say to Karen, he'll figure it out
I
and
don't even
tell
know who
me.
Karen is.
He rolled off the names. Remember that?
Yeah, I know
He
Sabrina because they were just arguing. Some chick Sabrina was just arguing with some other girl, Fatima. I remember that. Yeah, I do. I remember that.
mm,
But I'm not looking at this. See, every time I come home from, you know what? I'm not even. That'll be for another episode. So let's get some takeaways and advice here because before I start to go on a tangent. So what have we learned from our disagreements? One, boundaries I think is important. That should be discussed in advance. You know what I mean? In advance. You need to look at it up in advance. I mean, beforehand. We need to
uh,
discuss stuff in advance, not in the moment, which we do a lot, right? To me, a kiss or any kind of sign of affection shouldn't be forced. All right, she wants stuff all natural. Okay, so it should be natural. So if I feel like kissing at the end of the set, okay, then maybe it's natural. But we have so much back and forth between these episodes. I don't know. I'm wanting to. I just want to turn the camera off and go sit down and watch some Family Guy. And decision making should be actually shared between us, not dominated by one person.
But
Right?
what if one person have a vision and the other one doesn't see that vision?
I don't understand how that's relevant to compromise though. If you have a vision, if my vision is for us to be doing these on the beach, and I don't see us doing it on the beach, and that's a conversation. Well, I don't really see us being on the beach trying to do this. Maybe we can be in a beach area or something. It's compromise, you know. But that goes back to what I'm saying. Like decision making should be shared, not dominated. Just because you want to be on the beach doesn't mean I have to put on my sandals and go to the beach and do it.
But you do, if I ask nicely, right?
Yeah, because I capitulate because I don't want to argue or deal with the attitude. You know what I mean? So I capitulate, and that's not healthy because that builds resentment. That'll be another episode for you guys out there. You know, capitulation isn't going to do nothing but build resentment, and resentment and frustration is, of course, not good for any kind of relationship, right? Um, so some final reflections because I don't know how long this has been. We're supposed to be talking for half an hour. I feel like I've been talking for 2 days here. Um,
He really doesn't talk a lot because he talks a lot, but he's very soft spoken
I really don't talk a lot because I talk a lot.
because you're a
What's this?
therapist, babe. Like
What's
you're really, he like outside of therapy, he's not a real big talker. He sits back and observe a lot more than he talks.
Yeah, I'm trained to listen, so I do a lot of listening. You know what I mean?
You were doing that before you were trained to listen, though.
Yeah, but it's it says it somewhere in the Bible that you should be
Slow
slow
to
to speak.
speak. Yep.
You know, so I'm slow to speak, so I don't always gotta to say anything. I can listen and try to read the room. I'm good with reading the room before. If I have to interject, I will interject. But it's not necessary for me to be trying to talk and show people how intelligent I am. I don't need to do that. You know, what's funny about that?
Nothing at all, babe. Nothing at all.
You want some final reflections so we can cut this off.
So, so I would just say keep the boundaries. Like Art was speaking about when you're having conflict. Conflict is good because it brings about change, and we've had a lot of conflict and there has been a lot of change and a lot of growth. And I do appreciate it, but you don't necessarily have to feel the fire to learn a lesson. So hopefully we're helping you not to get burned in some fire because we're giving you some real life examples, some real life experience as to why we're having this conversation because I know for a fact if we're going through something, someone else has already gone through it. They're in it, or they eventually will get into it. And if you're in the midst of it and don't know how to get out of it, use some of these tips that Art provided throughout this conversation. They will help because it has helped us. Are we perfect? Not by a long shot, but we are willing to put in the work and to continue to grow to make our bond stronger.
All right, so hopefully, like she said, some of these things, some of the strategies that maybe I can write them in the comments or something in a more coherent kind of kind of fashion. So you can try to use these the next time you have a disagreement and just see how it goes, right? Or if you want to share your experiences with us, you can always put those in the comments or on our social media as well. We haven't had people call in yet because we're trying to, do this foundation stuff first. But maybe we'll use one of your emails or one of your messages as one of the topics of kind of our next episode. All right. So thank everybody for coming out. Appreciate your listening, and look forward to what our next topic is going to be, which I don't really know at the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be something interesting worth listening to.
So, do we kiss now or we kiss after?
Did we just didn't we just had this
Look, I just want to see if you change your mind.
changing my mind? We just had this conversation.
Okay, okay, everybody. So, thank you so much for joining us on In Between the Speaks. And please leave comments. What would you like to hear? Are you struggling with anything? Let us know and we'll try to help you out. Thank you. Have a peaceful night. Be blessed.